Hey everybody, welcome to the Creepo Depot. So today we're gonna do something a little different. I only have Nathan here today.
Sup?
You guys all know Nathan. All know Nathan. So
everybody loves Nathan.
everybody loves Nathan. He's in fantastic shape and compared to everyone else who's been on this show. So Nathan's been bugging me for a while to do this show, and I was like, hey, we're gonna maybe do it. I don't know. We're not doing Metabots today.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're not doing Metabots. Instead, obviously we're not doing Metabots based on like the cover picture, unless you just kind of like right click it and then not pay attention. Anyways, today we'll be talking about two cartoons that have come out around the same time as each other and that are kind of both interesting in their regards. They both have Donald Duck in them, and they're both very different.
Or they at least have like the adventuring common denominator on them.
Yeah, they're both adventuring shows that have Donald Duck in them, but they're two completely different shows. We're talking about the new Three Caballeros cartoon, and we're also talking about Ducktales, which just wrapped up its first season. Nathan was actually super pushing me to try to watch all of Ducktales, and I was just like...
Dude, yeah, I had to strong-arm you for a lot of it. And finally, it was just, okay, I'll watch it if you watch Black Dynamite.
Yeah, we made an arrangement where I was like, well, if you can find the Black Dynamite movie and you watch it, I'll watch the entirety of DuckTales, which luckily at that time had ended. So by the time we watched that movie, and we all had a good time watching it. I just blitzed most of DuckTales on one day and then blitzed it the rest of the way through, which was a very interesting experience. Nathan, you followed the show a little more.
I kind of followed it when it got released, but due to just how irregular, modern, basically new episodes come out. It might come out like within like every day for a week, or it might come out like once a month.
Yeah.
But yeah, I managed to follow it as close as possible. Okay.
Yeah, that was actually one of the reasons why I stopped watching, because I watched the premiere and I was like, yo, this is really good, and I'm excited for like waiting next week for a new episode. Then like next week, and I'm like, yo, where's the new episode? And I think I waited like maybe a week or two, and I was just like, I just remembered American cartoons aren't they're not the most consistent thing nowadays. So
I think, after the pilot, it took like 2-3 months before like the next episode came out.
Yeah, and by then I was just like, I don't care anymore. I don't care. Meanwhile, for Three Caballeros, literally Nathan's like, yo, you should watch DuckTales. Yo, you should watch DuckTales. And then I'm just like, I get this small whiff that this weird cartoon just kind of materialized out of nowhere, and nobody knows anything about it, and Matt Chapman is apparently involved, and I was just like, I need to know about this. And so I went digging around on some anonymous image boards and like read up a few things, and then someone was just like, oh yeah, we just have all the episodes just right here, and I was just like, okay.
Yeah, it was really weird how it came about. It was like some odd service in the Philippines.
Yeah, wasn't it animated in the Philippines too?
I actually have no idea. Like, just the entirety of the new Caballeros series was just out of the blue. Nobody really knows why it happened. Yeah, and there's no talks of it being released over in the States.
Yeah,
or anywhere else.
Yeah, you can. One of my friends, I loosely told him about what we were doing today, and he was able to find all the episodes, and he had a good time watching them. But it's not really up on anything official. My guess for this is that there have been rumors kind of been floating around about like a Disney Netflix kind of service, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're gonna shove this in it and just call it like hey, it's an original series made for this streaming service.
Or something they'll probably do something kind of like the Disney Afternoon, or like I'm trying to think of a clever way to do like streaming service afternoon.
The Disney streaming service afternoon. Which is actually but the thing is, the shows are they're built very differently. I think Cabs is built much more for that
a classic kind of a Disney almost audience.
Well, I would say more like what pacing wise, I feel like it's more for something that you would want to binge.
Oh yeah.
Because every episode kind of leads into the next one, and then leads into the next one, and leads into the next one.
Yeah, it has that hook to it, which is now becoming like really, really popular to just get people to binge watch stuff.
Yeah. Hold on, I just lost my notes for some reason. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, it's they're built completely differently, and the new DuckTales show, it's built more like
the original kind of.
Yeah, it's built a little bit closer to that, but it still kind of has like the Gravity Falls kind of thing, where it's kind of like has like a flowing kind of narrative that's kind of teased at every blue moon. It has a couple of them that's been throughout the series, and we'll go. I guess we can just talk about the plot. Well, let's just kind of give us our little bit of a basis first. We kind of went over what we're talking about today and a little bit of what our thoughts are. But Nathan, just kind of give me a heads up on where you how you grew up with DuckTales, or what you know about DuckTales before going into the new show, and maybe a little bit about Three Cabs as well.
So it was actually weird. So just going into this show, like I was trying to remember, DuckTales, or at least the podcast for this, this topic today. Like I was trying to rack my brains of remembering, wait, did I grow up on Disney Afternoon? I think I did. And just going through a bunch of my old toys, I found a crap ton of Gargoyles figures. And so, yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, I grew up on this. And yeah, rewatching some of the classic DuckTales, it was like, okay, yeah, I remember this. But yeah, I was born in '92. The Disney Afternoon wrapped up in the 90s.
Yeah, I would probably say the mid 90s, somewhere around
But yeah,
there.
so I do remember seeing stuff here and there, and I remember liking it as a kid and liking the rerun stuff. And so I actually, when I heard about the new series, I'm like, I remember DuckTales. And what actually got me in was David Tennant. I really love him as an actor. And just hearing that actual Scottish actor was going to be Scrooge McDuck really got me excited. And I know David Tennant was kind of talking about how he doesn't get a lot of roles where they allow him to just use his actual accent. So it, just watching it through it, it sounded like he had a lot of fun actually just loosening up and letting loose his dialect.
As for myself in regards to DuckTales, I remember watching it a bit as a kid, and I always have this one memory tied to the old DuckTales where I remember my dad, my little brother, and we were on a road trip to, I think, Sequoia, and we used to have this big old van that we could just take the chairs out in the back, and we just had just a little bed area where just my brother and I would just chill in the back. And we had a little CRT, and my dad had this he had this he had this outlet thing that would plug into the cigarette lighter.
Oh, yeah.
So it probably wasn't that good, but it powered the CRT, and it powered a little VHS player, and my dad brought some videos. He just threw some in, and we were just I don't want to watch a DuckTales movie. That sounds dumb. And then rewatching it, I think I was probably about 10 or 11 at the time, and I was just oh man, this movie's really good. It was the one with the magic lamp. And
oh yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah,
that was actually the one that I clearly remember. Because that would always crop up on Disney Channel. That was their go-to.
Yeah, and it's I remember the animation for it was really good, and the episodes that we actually watched together, of the old show.
Yeah, it was spectacular.
Yeah, there were some there were just certain little movements and just things in there that were just oh, that looks.
And yeah, there was also, just looking at it, a lot of the problems with a lot of syndicated cartoons. You'll see a lot of animation shell shaking, but with this one, I was noticing it was a very, very steady transition for the cells and everything.
Yeah, the thing was though, the original DuckTales, that was the first actual cartoon that Disney was producing for TV, and at the time they never actually had any TV shows cartoons produced for TV directly. If anything, it was just always hey, let's just take a bunch of our old shorts and just kind of toss them up on TV and just call it a day. But with DuckTales, it was like, hey, we're gonna try to like make something totally unique, and because of that, they didn't know how much money to throw at it. They didn't know how to budget this. So like, if you watch a lot of the early episodes of the old DuckTales, it looks really good, and you're like, oh, and that's mostly because they threw a lot of budget at it, and a lot of the animators that were working on it were also animators who were working on featured films. So they were like, there was a lot of great stuff going on in there, and eventually they kind of figured out the budget and toned it down a lot.
But well, actually, no. Looking even at the other stuff like Tailspin, Darkwing Duck, there was still that Disney movie quality to it.
Yeah, there was a lot of quality in the animation back then. Not saying that these two shows don't have as much quality. It's just a different type of thing. It's not to be like too down on the new show, especially Three Cabs, which, while I do love the look of it and I do like the colors of it, there's a lot of obvious corners being cut, and there's a lot of recycled animations, which isn't bad, and it like they mask it really well. It's not like Wakfu levels of like, oh, I completely forgot that this is being like done in Toon Boom or Flash or whatever they're using to make it. But as for the new DuckTales, so I do have this really strong attachment to the old series because I watched it a lot as a kid. I have that memory with my dad and my little brother, and you know, when I think about Scrooge McDuck, it's always going to be Alan Young. Probably it's always going to be that voice. And there was a point where, I'm not going to lie, I was a little snobbish about it.
Yeah, all your updates, it was like going through every episode. Like I'd be on Discord, then see a message pop up from Anthony, and it's always like some comment of like, I don't like Launchpad. Or I don't like how this person acts and how it's not like the old show. Or I actually did not like the new Launchpad for a long time. It took me a while because like you saw the old you yeah, he was very more like the kind of scatterbrained heroic type rather than an idiot. But yeah, like his newer personality falls more in line with the Darkwing Duck personality that he has.
But, so like when I think about Launchpad, I'm thinking, yeah, he's like not like this stupid, but yeah, going into the new show when they were like announcing it, I was like, another remake of something. And I at the time, Alan Young was, I think he either passed or was like getting there. He was getting really up in that age. I think he was like 90 something when he went, which God bless him. He did the Scrooge McDuck role for as long as he could. I'm still super happy he came back and was able to do his voice for the DuckTales game made by Way Forward. Which, like, side note for that game, I have never seen a game like have to go and rely on its soundtrack for a good review. Like, literally the one thing that game needed to do, which it did perfectly, was like make sure that the soundtrack was good and make sure that the Moon song was good. Which is really funny. But yeah, so going into this, I was really apprehensive. I was like, oh, all the Huey, Dewey, and Louie have different voice actors. What's up with that? I was kind of happy though that if they're gonna replace all the voices, that they were just gonna go and give everyone a new voice. They weren't just gonna do like the Powerpuff Girls thing where only certain people get new voices and other people stay the same. And because honestly, that really annoyed me. Because if you're gonna go and reprise something, like if you're gonna go for the original cast, bring in as much as you can. I know that there are circumstances like with Samurai Jack where you have like people who have passed away and such, so you can't really go and get the entire cast. But you know, doing your best you can, it's always good. Or you can just go all out and just recast everyone. I think that's also a really valid way of doing it. So I was always a little hesitant of it when I did see when I saw the premiere, I was like, you know what, this is good. It's gonna take a little while for me to like get off my bias of Alan Young, because like I remember my best friend Niran was playing Kingdom Hearts. He was playing Kingdom Hearts 2, and Scrooge McDuck shows up, and he has like 2 lines in it, and I'm like, what? That's not Scrooge McDuck. That's not his actual voice. That's not Alan Young right there. What the hell? Then I looked up how old Alan Young was, and I was like, oh, he can take a break. That's unfair for me to go and expect an 80-something-year-old man to still be doing voice work. But as for Three Caballeros, I remember watching the original movie when I was a kid. I don't remember too much about it. The only things I remember was I really like the characters. I love the Three Caballeros as characters. And I just remember, like, I think they were trying to teach you something about Mexico and Brazil and Latin American countries. And, like, they would just have, and I guess Spain too. And they would just have moments where they're just fawning over just actual people who are just there. Just normal ass humans. Which is a little weird, but it works.
No, the funny part is so this week in my I'm taking a Spanish or a Latin American music appreciation class, and so our prof was like, okay, so yeah, here's a example for it's an old cartoon, and it was the original Three Caballeros, and he kind of just pulled it down afterwards. It's like, oh, it was probably pretty whitewashed. I'm like, no, just keep playing it. It's classic animation.
It's classic animation. It's good, but it's kind of weird because Disney's kind of been sitting on the Three Cabs for a long time. They haven't really used the characters, which I don't know. I'm not. I don't know how well that movie did originally, and if it's been well received. I know that in Florida they had a little ride for it, which I was really mad about. I was like, I want a Three Caballeros ride.
And I think briefly, the cabs were in the original original Disneyland.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, very, very briefly.
But they didn't have the full blown ride that Florida had, and I'm like, why does Florida get the ride with the Mexican bird and not Southern California,
which is right next to Mexico.
I would appreciate it if I could have my multicultural birds. That's all I want. In fact, I remember when Coco came out and everyone was mad that they had that obnoxious Olaf short in front of it. Everyone was like, why didn't they just make a Three Caballeros short for this movie for Mexicans about Mexicans?
Honestly, yeah, that would have been a really perfect fit to it.
But yeah, so now that you know where we're coming from, we have very how would you, I'm trying to think of where to go from here. Well, let's just talk about the characters, I guess. We'll start off with the cabs, since it's a much smaller cast.
Oh, very, very and I'd say that actually plays in their strong point, because the core heroes, they play off each other really, really well. And even the villains with their group, they play off each other really, really well. So you get very much witty dialogue in between everybody. Yeah,
so in the Three Cabs, the main things that you're going to watch, it's just mostly, you have your Three Cabs, you have Jose, you have Panchito, you have Donald, and they introduced a new character, Xandra, the goddess of adventure, voiced by Grey DeLise. So she's obviously the best. No, Panchito's the best character. But they go on weekly adventures. They go to a different location. They're bad guy Lord Veldrake and what's the other guy's name?
Oh crap! I'm blinking on his name.
I literally just watched a couple episodes last night, and Shell Goose. Yeah, okay. Shell Goose. They go and they're messing up with something, and it's up to the Three Cabs to go fix it. And each episode actually is really they have a different little thing going on. Sometimes Shell Goose is the one who makes the mess. Sometimes it's Veldrake. Sometimes they're both in a mess. Sometimes everyone is in a mess. And you get these characters kind of are all around each other, and they all kind of grow with each other. You see how you see Veldrake maybe going and appreciating Shell Goose just a little bit over time, even though he just insults him constantly, and much prefers his pet Leopold. who also is a very good boy. And you see the cabs grow as well. You see them kind of develop as a
group,
as a team. Yeah, which is always fun, even though mostly it's just hey, we just gotta get Donald to fucking focus.
Actually, yeah. Now that you say that's like a lot of the premise for the original, or at least a lot of the episodes.
Yeah, it's mostly just like we got to get Donald to do the thing because Jose and Panchito can't do it by themselves, which does suck. But at the same time, it goes and it
Establishes him as like the leader of the
yeah,
group.
yeah, and you have to go and like show that they need to work together. You can't just have one or two. You have to have all three in order to get stuff done. But still, like, they're all entertaining characters, and I like them a lot. They even have, like, a weird parallel between DuckTales where...
Oh, yeah, they have, Daisy's nieces, which I'm honestly... It's very, very, very... Like, if you're into Disney, you're only going, like, know about them. But, yeah...
yeah, April, May, and June, which... Fucking clever names. They're kind of like a parallel to the Huey, Dewey, and Louie of the new DuckTales series, where April, May, and June, they act more like the original, like, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, where they were just kind of like this...
Yeah, they were the support team.
Yeah, they were like a support team that, like, kind of they're just a character. Like, all three of them are one basic unit that kind of, like, play off each other. And they all have slight different personalities, but they all still have the same voice actress, and she's just doing different tones and different pitches and different, like, deliveries on lines, which I actually liked a lot because sometimes in the new DuckTales you would have episodes where it was just Huey and Louie, and you were just like, what about Dewey? Or it would just be Dewey and Louie. You're just like, what about Huey? And they really in the new DuckTales, that was one of the things I kind of had a problem with, was that the cast was never super consistent because the cast was kind of big.
Which actually still kind of plays off with the original DuckTales. It was still a fairly big cast.
Yeah, I'll give you that. But if you're gonna,
with all those big name like actors and everything, it's going to be hard to just get everybody in the same room at this. To record.
But it was kind of like, it's weird to think about that you can have an episode just about one of the brothers. Instead of always having the three brothers, and that it does kind of pull to the show's credit. I mean, it is stronger, that Huey. Wait, no, that Dewey is always like kind of like on his own like little side mission, kind of doing his own little side plot, which is kind of interesting. But at the same time, I'm just kind of like, it's kind of weird to separate these three, especially since like.
Oh yeah, since it's very established that they are always together.
Yeah. And there's even an episode where they do split up and they like just try to have their own day by themselves.
And they realize it's kind of not all that great.
Which is weird because like they'll have that episode, and then other episodes it's like, oh, we'll just
Louie's swindling people.
Yeah, we'll just have like the characters just completely separated doing their own things. And I'm like. Meanwhile, April, May, and June, they're just like, oh, we're just a unit. We just do things together, and we never break up. Which was it's a little more simplistic, but it's fine. It's fine. The only character I would say in Three Cabs I don't like is Daisy, but that's just because I don't like Daisy.
Yeah, like I think she's a lot better in the older cartoons. Like they kind of.
Honestly, I just don't like Daisy in general.
Oh, really?
There was. I don't think that she's a good character. Controversial opinion. I don't like Daisy Duck, and anytime I see her, she usually like I'm just like she's just bad. Like there was, my friend Hoffy, Brian and I, we went to Lake Havasu once. And literally, Hoffy and I were just complete lazy bums who just, like, lazed around in the hotel all day. And she brought this, like, Minnie Mouse, like, cartoon.
Oh, yeah, I remember you telling me about this. And you made, like, that joke about, Daisy was basically just hungover all the time.
Yes! God bless Minnie Mouse in that cartoon, because Daisy is literally the worst worker I've ever seen. She's always late. She's, like, messing up constantly with the most basic tasks. Honestly, I'm just like, is Minnie Mouse just, like, literally the nicest person ever and just giving her friend just constant, like, is just, like, just being, like, nepotistic and just being like, she's my friend, she's gonna get better. And then, like, she doesn't get better, and I'm like, Minnie, you need to dump this girl. They all just need to dump this girl. I I remember there was like a Tumblr post. It was like, man, I just don't like Daisy Duck, and there's so many better characters that like Donald is more suited for that never get brought up again. Which is actually kind of something that both shows kind of touch on, since the whole like Disney Duck universe is so freaking huge.
Dude, yeah, it was fairly big here in the States, but in Italy, it just kept expanding and expanding, and there were spin-offs to these spin-offs, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, and both shows kind of touch on them a little bit, like the reason that Donald has his house in Three Cabs is that like his uncle that showed up in like maybe like 2 comics or something. Like gave it to him, and then like Ducktales obviously pulls a lot from. They're trying to go for more of a Don Rosa kind of thing, and they're pulling a lot of characters from that and a lot of like little events from that. And they're both like they both kind of do their own kind of thing. But is there anything else you want to talk about more? I guess we can talk more about the Ducktales characters. We've been on Three Cabs.
Yeah, very, very, very much so.
The DuckTales characters are all very well fleshed out. I just kind of wish that we got a little more time with them, especially... I mean, it's a longer series.
And I'd say, like, what makes them good is a lot of these characters have a history with each other, along with the voice actors, so it makes it very believable when they're talking with each other.
Oh, what do you mean, like, with the history with voice actors?
So Magica's voice actor and Scrooge, David Tennant, were on Doctor Who together.
Oh,
and
okay.
they were... Yeah, her Magica's voice actor was the 10th Doctor's companion for quite a long time.
Oh, that's actually kind of neat.
And yeah, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, their voice actors were all in SNL together.
Oh, okay. I just knew that. I think it's Louie. He was the one from Parks and No. It was Huey, because he's the one from Parks and Rec, and he was just like, I want to be all the blue characters from the 90s.
And yeah, Launchpad was also part of the SNL cast.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
they have.
So yeah, they like know each other, and
that's good that they have that bounce off between each other.
But yeah, and also even like the characters themselves, you can tell like Glomgold and Scrooge, they have that history together.
Oh yeah, you could definitely go and feel like the history and age with a lot of these characters.
Yep. Screw you, McDuck!
When we were walking up to the comic book store, we were just making Glomgold jokes. It was some of them.
Oh yeah, God bless Keith Ferguson and his like voice acting talents.
Screw you, McDuck! You can go to Jupiter, but that just means you're stupider. The Keith Ferguson, I just want to talk about him for a second, man.
Dude, he really stole the show, like on his appearances.
Oh yeah. I remember. When I was about 8 episodes in, I was just like, I need like 40% less Webby, and I need like maybe like 15 to 20% more Glomgold, because he's just very entertaining, and his voice is there's
a lot of energy to it. There's that manicness to it, and just that insane, but yet stupidity. But it's this weird combination of stupidity, genius, and like tenaciousness.
Yeah. The episode where I remember you were like hyping this episode up, the one where they tried to go and take down their Mark Zuckerberg or esque character that they introduced for this series was actually a lot of fun to watch. Oh, what do you mean? There's a trapdoor there, and I fall into the lava.
Yeah, he gets down like the crazy like over the top cartoon character villain down.
Yeah, he does a really good job on that. It reminds me a lot of Jim Cummings a lot, where it's a very cartoony sound, and it works really well with the series. But it is kind of weird that like like I said earlier, I kind of think it's really weird how like these shows both have Donald, but they have like opposite amounts of them. Like Three Cabs is literally
it's Donald focused.
It is his show, and then like DuckTales, he like shows up maybe 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, at least half the series I'd say he'd showing up.
Yeah, but he doesn't really show up to too many adventures, which the show does kind of give a reason. It's like, oh, he's just trying to fix his houseboat the entire time, and he's Donald Duck, so
Yeah, there's also that history between him and Scrooge, so he is focused on getting that like houseboat up and running so he can like get out of there.
But I did just want more adventures of them, because like the episode where you have Scrooge and him and I forgot the Lucky Duck's name.
Oh.
You know
yeah. His cousin.
Yeah, Gander Goose, but yeah. Gander, like that one was fun. You had like you got them all playing off each other, and even though I kind of wanted Scrooge and Donald to be doing more adventure things together, like in the Zeus episode, which is weird because both of these series have Zeus in it for some reason.
Yeah, and one's a duck. Well, actually, yeah, that's a really weird thing. Like, just going back to the old episodes, or the original episodes, it's the entire civilization is anthropomorphic animals, but you still got like human skeletons and everything, and it's just what the hell is going on? And they're referring to, in the original Ducktales, they referred to each other as like human, which I thought was kind of weird.
Oh yeah, we watched like some episode where they like met some aliens, and the alien was like, "We'll destroy you humans," and it's like, what? They're ducks and pigs and dogs.
And yeah, in the desert, like a couple of the desert episodes, you will see a human skeleton there.
Meanwhile, the three cabs are just like, yeah, Xander's just a human, whatever. Zeus is just a human, no big D. Which actually was like, which sounds like it would be jarring, but like...
They played it off as natural.
Yeah, that and like, in the original Three Caballeros movie, like I said earlier, you had these like live action people that were just there. They were just there. They didn't explain it. They were just like, yep.
Just look at the exotic culture.
Yeah, just look at get some learning into you kids. But, so I guess back into the so Donald versus Donald, I mean, it's obvious which show kind of does him a little bit better.
I'd say Cabs, definitely did him a lot better, mostly because there is a lot more screen time on him.
And he is, and he actually like goes through a little bit of changes and whatnot. And also, I just think that they kind of respect the whole, like, his voice a bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, final episode, DuckTales, it was an interesting idea, but it's still off-putting not to hear that duck quackiness to it.
Yeah, and it just, I mean, to me, it felt like modern, like, it felt like some type of executive decision.
Yeah, very much we need to get somebody that the kids know.
I felt like they needed either just a reason to shoehorn like a big time celebrity so that they could advertise it, and like I felt like I was like someone was just like, well, I can't understand Donald that much, you know, he talks weird, and I'm like, you can actually, he's relatively easy to understand. I don't know what's up with kids these days. I can't understand Donald talk. Like, cause like he talks normal, he talks the same way throughout the entire Three Cabs, and I understand everything he says, but I guess for DuckTales they were just like, well, I guess we'll just put Don Cheadle in and do that, which it was still a cool scene. It was still cool to
just seeing Donald in charge and being all like, oh yeah, he was a military man.
Yeah, he's like a military man. He'd like,
they actually did play that off a lot to a lot of stuff of like, oh yeah, I forgot like Donald did this and Donald did that. He's
a good character. I love him a lot. Though I was actually really annoyed because all the promos were like, you could finally understand Donald Duck. I was like, they did this like plot like in an old like cartoon in the 50s.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was one of my favorite Disney shorts.
The one where Donald gets like the normal voice and he's like,
the throat lozenge, and it was it was very much almost. I'm blanking out on that singer. Did New York, New York?
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah. Kids don't know. Who cares? Who cares about the viewers? Who cares about the viewers?
Well, Filipinos care.
Well,
and
who cares if
Three Cabs was streamed in the Philippines, so I'm pretty sure
that they care about Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, they care about Sinatra.
But they were just kind of doing the. Yeah, because I remember, like, I was like, but I saw that cartoon like as a kid, and I distinctly remember that, and I think I rewatched it recently because that's the source of that one gif of like Donald Duck and he's like him strolling by Daisy Duck who's like crawling on the floor crying, and he just like tosses her a dime and just walks off. Which I think, like, in that whole, I think the whole basis of that cartoon is like Daisy Duck is like going to therapy, and she's like, I'm just a mess. I don't have my boyfriend anymore. His voice is all normal, and everybody loves him, and I can't spend time with them, and I just want to
there was
myself.
like another one, because I remember that episode being like Daisy couldn't understand him at all, and she's all like, I want somebody like romantic and stuff, and then he basically gets those pills.
Yeah, and then after that, like,
yeah, I actually don't remember like that part at all. I'll have to rewatch it.
Yeah, we'll rewatch.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'm gonna give Disney credit for as evil as they are. Like, you can find their old shorts really easy.
Yeah, like
when I was gonna go and look up Three Cab stuff, and I was gonna be like, yeah, I don't like the bear. I was like, oh yeah, the bear is literally just like a reference to like that old. He's Humphrey the Bear, old Disney character. Everybody knows him.
Yeah, and actually, I had that same thing after watching Cabs. Crap, I'm blanking out on the manservant in Three Cabs, or his name.
Oh, Ari?
Yeah, Ari. Yeah, like, after watching it, I'm like, oh man, like, I remember that short. So I just, like, looked up the episode, and, like, watching it, I was like, oh man, this is, like, really great and everything. And I completely forgot how dark it was.
I actually don't really remember the cartoon that had Ari in it.
Yeah, it was, like, funny, but there's, like, stuff like, he gets depressed, and it's like, oh man, I'm going to off myself.
What's up with this old Disney cartoons?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like,
people want to commit suicide.
Yeah, thinking about it, like, man, Disney had like a lot more bite than Warner in like certain aspects.
They were just like I mean, like I said earlier, like Daisy was just pulling that gun out, and she's like, and she like knocks over like a flower thing, and then Donald talks normally again. But we touched a little bit about this earlier, but how do you feel about the animation between the two shows?
Cobb's very much fits that old Disney afternoon look to it.
Yeah.
But I honestly kind of like the comic book stylized version of Ducktales, mostly because it pops out a lot more. Like, I'd say, the colors even pop out a bit more.
I would think that I will give you that probably. The thing, like I said earlier, Cabs does do a lot of shortcuts and whatnot with its animation. Like when you watch the Straight and Gorilla episode, you're like, oh, that's just literally the same Yeti pasted over and over again, which, we can do, and it's fine.
We're in now an age of digital medium, so you can just take the characters
and edit them so they do the same thing over and over again. And the only thing is, I think that Cabs, like, I give Cabs a little bit more credit, like, and its like locations and its environments, because
that was actually the one thing that I was going to bring out. Like, the Cabs location, it was always like big, very, very like large in scale to like fit that like grandiose adventure.
Yeah. Well, I do like a lot of the environments in DuckTales as well. It just, I felt like sometimes I'm just like, oh, we're still in Duckburg. Or
it's a lot more laid back with DuckTales.
But the comic book aesthetic was very good. The only thing is, they changed the character designs a little bit, so that way like the boys have like more square heads, and characters like are a little bit more exaggerated. But every so often, I don't know why, I don't know if you got this vibe, but every time I looked at Scrooge or Donald every so often, they looked a little too normal. Like, they looked a little jarring compared to everyone else. I don't know. Maybe it was just a certain shot or something.
I'm just rewinding like all my DuckTales binging. Yeah, I can kind of see that, honestly.
Yeah.
Because their style is a little bit closer to the classic Disney look.
Yeah, I think it's just like it's probably like a studio thing where like the studio's like, you can't like exaggerate them too much. I mean, which is a little disappointing, because like when you watch the new Mouse cartoons.
Oh yeah,
they're very
that old timey look to it.
Yeah, they go all out. So I noted it was only a couple shots that I was just like, it feels like Scrooge is standing out a little bit more, but I will give you that. Yeah, like
typical Scroogey, always standing out.
If we do that many more times, we're gonna have
it's going to
at
be
the bottom.
Downward spiral of just imitating Glomgold.
Maybe that'll be the end of the show. But the lighting. I will give the new DuckTales a lot for like its lighting, and a lot of its animation is just really good. The episode that was just about Scrooge and his ex was like, there's some really good lighting in that.
Very. Yeah, like lot of the cave lighting to it looked believable.
And the action in it is a lot better. The fight scenes are a lot better
and they also experimented with the animation style, got that old, like, 60s comic book to that one scene. Yeah, going back to Glom Gold again. God, I honestly just love that scene. Like, it goes into that old-timey pop comic style. And they do the stereotypical single tear, like streaming down from the female's face.
Yeah, the only thing is, I just kind of wish that, like, they got a little more fantastical sometimes, and they got a little more... I wish that they traveled to a few more locations, because, like, when they do travel places, there's a lot of creativity on hand. And since 3 Cabs is a lot shorter, they literally are
they gotta get that fantastical look to it.
Yeah, every episode is just like new location, everything looks different. Now they're dead, now they're not. And it looks so good.
And actually, yeah, honestly, going back to Duckburg itself, you don't really get a lot of the feel of the city itself. Like, the original, like, just going back to it, like, it felt like Duckburg was also a character in itself.
Oh,
because, they talk about, like, the different businesses there, and you could understand, oh, this is how Scrooge got his money, and, like, how everybody else is, and the meetup places and everything. But, yeah, the locations in New DuckTales, it just feel like they're backdrops. Like, there are the MacGuffins and everything, but they're not, like, the main focus of it.
All right, so I guess, do you want to go into, like, the bit of the plots of both shows?
Yeah, I'd say
now's the perfect time. Okay, so the main plot of the new, at least the first season of DuckTales, focuses around 2 points. One was, what is the Spirit of Solis? What happened to Huey, Dewey, Louie's mom? What is that whole thing right there?
And reconciling with Scrooge himself.
Yeah.
And just forgiving him.
And there's a subplot about Magica Dispel trying to go and get that first dime so that way she can come back to life. Which honestly, when you look at both of those stories, they're both kind of like very separate from each other to the point where, like, both of them are kind of solved in different episodes.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels weird that they never, like, truly interact with each other. And also, the only thing I just didn't like is I don't like that Magica wasn't built up enough. I mean, she was there, but I feel like...
Yeah, she wasn't built up enough, but I still say she had some really good dialogue. She was a pretty memorable character all in all.
Very. She's a very memorable character. I just kind of wish that...
Yeah, I honestly wish, they built it up a lot more.
Yeah, I wish that there was, like, a part where, like, Webby, like pops open a book, and then there's, like, a picture of Magica Dispel, and she looks all stupid, and then, like, they're like, oh, who's that? And then, explain it to them, because, like...
Because, that was, Webby's core character was, she was the historian of, like, Scrooge.
Yeah, she, like, knew all this information, she knew all this stuff, and, like, as people who grew up with the old show, we know how big of a deal Magica Dispel is.
Like, when she popped up, it was usually a very, very big episode.
Yeah, she, like, had always, like, a really fun plan. She was just always a big character, and I know that in the comics she's even bigger, and in the DuckTales, like, video games, she's, like, the main antagonist as well.
Despite being Italian, she has a Russian accent. But it works. It works.
Shut up! It's the chick who was.
Granny Hazel Witch.
Yeah.
Actually, she voiced a lot of witches in her day.
Well, she was that, and she was also like Natasha from Rocky and Bullwinkle and Rocky as well, and she's just such a good voice actress. Which actually was really interesting that her and Alan Young were these, like, 2 really veteran voice actors that were just around the same age when they both passed, which is honestly just sad. But
but at the same time, it's honestly amazing just how long they lived and just how long they kept those roles.
Oh yeah,
it's, like, very, very adamant.
Yeah, especially since they never replaced her as Granny. But we know that Magica Dispel is a big deal.
But yeah, the new kids at home, they don't know.
Yeah, and I would have liked it be a little more grandiose, even if, like, when she does, like, do her big takeover, it wasn't as big of a deal as I would have wanted it to be.
Right.
I mean, everything was going to hell and stuff, but, like, I feel like the actual fight with her was a little kind of anticlimactic.
I honestly thought it was pretty well done. Like, everybody showed their strong points, and everybody had their, like, time in the spotlight.
Yeah. But the only thing is, I just kind of wish that there wasn't so much. I wish that every episode kind of. I mean, it's the nature of the beast with these kind of shows where you can't breadcrumb people too much about what's going to happen and what's going on.
And they actually did that a lot. Well, mostly for a lot of the older Disney Afternoon stuff, which honestly I really like, and it leaves a lot more open to possibly cameos from these older shows.
Yeah, that was something I'm still torn about that stuff because like they had like a little like nod to like the gummy bears and like their like kind of history and stuff like that, and I was just like, I honestly did not know that happened, and I actually like legit like paused the video and I was just like, yo, you didn't tell me that this show had fucking gummy bears in it. This show's freaking amazing. I think that was around the point where I was like really starting to get into the show. And then that, and like they had a Mighty Ducks mask tossed in, and
entire episode like dedicated to Don Carnage.
Yeah, from Tailspin, and then like you had obviously the Darkwing Duck references sprinkled in, which I actually do like how they handled that, because going back to my whole like, if you're gonna go and reboot everything, you make sure you change all the voices. But Jim Cummings is still Darkwing Duck, which
I think it's stock footage maybe, but at the same time, the first part, like definitely when they're like teasing it as, it's gonna be your crossover episode. Yeah,
it's still Jim Cummings, and it's cool to hear his voice again, but I'm like, I don't really know. I still don't know how I feel about that, because I'm like, on the one hand, I'm like, cool, it's the original voice actor. At the same time, I'm like, why didn't you just recast him like you did everyone else? But since it's like this little ancillary little reference thing, I think I'm okay with it.
Yeah, very much like the entire thing is just a callback to childhood in the long run.
Yeah. Though, like, it's kind of weird because, like, I feel like the new DuckTales is more of like this weird, like, we want to make the Disney Afternoon to be this one giant, like, extended Marvel universe. Like,
which it kind of was a little bit. Well, specifically with Darkwing and DuckTales.
But they have a lot of crossover there. But like I remember in the first episode of the new DuckTales, they go and hint at
Spoonerville and crap, I'm blanking out on the Cove's name in Tailspin.
Well, well, they have Don Carnage, so they have a bigger focus on that. But they have they reference Spoonerville as well, so it feels like they're trying to build that. Meanwhile, in Three Cabs, when they do references, it's mostly just like,
it's a like nod and wink.
It's mostly nods and winks, but then they toss in really random things. Like, they have a character who pretty much is the Creeper from the Black Cauldron, which I thought that Disney wasn't allowed to talk about that movie anymore, but they were just like, yeah, we'll just have the guy from the Black Cauldron just be in this episode about Goblin Jail. Goblin Jail's great. But the plot of the new DuckTales, it's good. The only thing is, I feel like pacing wise, the first
they like, usually I have to watch something like twice to be like, okay, so here's my nitpicks and stuff. But after you're saying there's way too much Webby, just looking at it, it's like there honestly was way too much Webby. Yeah,
which the first 8 episodes, a good chunk of them were focused on her, which the new one isn't that bad.
She's way better than the old one. Like, a lot more thought out.
Yeah, it's just I felt like the show was I think with some tweaking with how the episode structure should be, they should have like maybe moved some episodes further back and pushed some episodes forward, especially since it just feels like I'm just getting shotgunned in the face with Webby when I'm here to see Scrooge McDuck. And I'm like, I appreciate that the new Webby's different and new and better, but here's the Scrooge McDuck, and maybe maybe I can learn to not hate the new Launchpad. But after the first 8 episodes, like after I was just like, I'm just sick of this, then it just kind of picked up and started getting better. But especially since like you go and introduce the Beagle Boys in like the 3rd episode.
Yep.
And then like 2 episodes later you bring them back, and I'm like, well, that seems a little soon.
But yeah, honestly, looking back at the old stuff, they kind of did that also with the Beagle Boys. Yeah. Slightly. Like, they were very much the big bads.
Yeah, they were very much the big bads. But like when you look at the new show, and it's Glomgold shows up in the first episode, he's a big deal, and then like he doesn't show up for a long time later. Same with Magic and Dispel. I think that she was kind of like built herself up. Like she showed up every so often. But they did a lot. But I do like all the references and nods to the other thing. Oh, the one other thing I did really like was they tied in the NES game to it with the rock people.
Yeah.
Because the rock people are just there in the NES game. They're just there. I'm like, I don't remember this from the TV show. But then they just...
Which is kind of surprising because they were like one of the well-known episodes of the TV series. But I don't know if it was season 1. It might have been season 1, just how long original season 1 was.
Yeah, we were... So originally, kids, what we wanted to do was we were just like, hey, so let's do we'll just watch a good chunk of season 1 of the OG DuckTales to go like a little...
Yeah, compare and contrast, see what they did.
Yeah. And leave Cabs alone. Anyways, but and so I was just like, well, old show... It wasn't you, we were like, old shows, like, they were like...
Yeah, they fluxed from it's 20 episods to 90 episodes.
For like an entire season, because they didn't really...
They didn't know pacing.
Yeah, so I was Googling it, I was like, Nathan, the first season of DuckTales is 68 episodes. And we were just like, we ain't watching 68 episodes, especially when we got a week to do this shit.
Yep.
But I guess enough for DuckTales.
I actually transition it? So season 2 is actually confirmed to have the cabs in it.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So
well, I guess we should have saved the show for a little later. No. I think it's just a good time to do it. But
yeah, apparently they might be a big part of it. Might get some more Donald in it.
That's good. That's good. Because the first season, my biggest problem was there wasn't enough Donald, and I feel like there needed to be a little bit more interactions with things. There were I think that there were some kind of half-baked lines. I remember there was this one part that got me off guard where Launchpad was talking about how Dewey was his favorite, and I was like, they didn't really establish this as well. He just said it now. They go and show it a lot later, but I'm just like, I kind of wish that they built it up a little bit more. But for the Three Cabs, the main plot mostly just revolves around Donald Duck getting a new place in this
in a super university. I'd say almost like a Harvard or
like a UCLA or something.
Yes, it very much a town centered around the university and the area.
And he gets a new place, and it's in this university, and in it he goes and finds a book that has Zandra, the goddess of adventure, and they just are going on different adventures to go and
save the world.
Yeah, just save the world literally every week, and every episode kind of ties into the next one, and they actually have a really strong continuity with it, which is actually really cool. When the villain says, "Oh, it's gonna take us 3 months to get back to Earth," literally in the show, 3 months have passed, and you kind of see how the characters have kind of changed within those 3 months. We won't go too much into. I'm not gonna go too much into the whole.
Because it possibly might be coming out. Possibly, who we don't really know at this point.
But I really do like the plot of the Three Cabs show.
I'd say. Since it's a pretty simple concept, they very much nailed it fairly well. Yeah.
The only thing is, I do kind of wish Jose got a little bit better. I like Jose, I love him a lot. It's just that
Panchito, Panchito and Donald just stole the spotlight for that series. Yeah, well,
I think the villains did a really good job.
And
too.
Definitely the villains.
Yeah, the villains have a really good relationship with each other, and they have a lot of pluses and minuses. There's a great episode where they need to get to Mount Olympus, and the main villain, he's just like, I ain't gonna fly there. We're gonna fly there in class. And he uses his riches to get a fancy plane, to go get a fancy helicopter, to go hire a fancy servant to walk him up the mountain. And it's really entertaining to watch. And meanwhile, his staff is just belittling him and just hitting him every so often. And the show is a lot more musical, I also noticed. They have
very much tied into that old Disney spirit to it, where a lot of the old 5-minute episodes and stuff were musical numbers.
They have like, I would say out of the 12 episodes, I would probably say a good like maybe third or maybe fourth of them have like a little song in them.
Yeah,
and they're not amazing songs, but they're like pretty catchy.
Well, with the exception of Goblin Jail, that was
Goblin Jail's so good. Yesterday I was so mad because me and Nathan, we were rhyming to annoy a friend, and we were rhyming the word pale over and over again, and I was just like, Nathan, how did we not tie that back into Goblin Jail? Oh, Goblin Jail is probably... Goblin Jail and maybe the song about, like, following the line is probably the best one. I do like the whole... You don't get a vacation, you take...
I was going to go into that. That was a pretty catchy one also.
I just like that because I just do that at work. I'm just like, I'm not...
And yeah, it's honestly, it's relatable.
You don't get a break. You take it. I'm taking 15 off. But no, like, every character kind of... The only thing is, I do think that Jose is very undercooked. I feel like everyone else kind of gets...
Yeah, and I'd say, like the heroes and the villains, they don't really interact all that much. It's mostly like, oh, hey, there's the big bad.
Yeah, it's mostly just
it's very much a Inspector Gadget and a Dr. Claw situation.
Oh, yeah.
Because, Gadget knows that Claw is out there.
Yeah, they just know literally, they're living next to each other, and they're just like, we know they're out there, but when will they strike? It's just mostly a waiting game. And eventually they do figure out, like, where each other are at. And they're just... It actually kind of... I think it actually gets really interesting at that point because
it then, like, evolved into, how are we going to break into our neighbor's house?
How are we going to... How did we not realize that our neighbor was actually our villain? And, the only thing is, I do kind of wish that Three Cabs didn't spoil that, the villain wins in the end and gets his stuff. This is in the first episode.
Yeah, it's... Yeah, very, very... crap. I'm blanking out. There is definitely, like, a movie.
Yeah.
Actually, it's kind of like Pulp Fiction, where you get, like, a good... Like, you get to the end, and then you watch it.
Yeah, you start at the ending, and you, like, travel back to how you got there. The only thing is, I do think that they give Donald a little too much development time, and they don't really flesh out any of the other characters. I love Panchito a lot. They could have done more with them. That's the only thing. But then again, this show is compared to the DuckTales, DuckTales is like 20-something or 26, 27.
Age-wise, I'd say it's...
No, I mean how many episodes are in the first season of DuckTales.
I'd say at least like 18 or so.
No, it was in the 20s. I remember that. Nathan's got to dig that up. Basically, Cabs is working with half the episode, so I kind of understand why certain characters just didn't get that well developed, especially with... I keep saying Jose, and there's a reason for that. It's mostly just...
his character trait was mostly just, he's suave.
Yeah,
and they don't build off of that.
Well, it's not even like suave. It's like more pseudo-suave. Because like...
it's 23 for new DuckTales.
Okay. But yeah, like it's like this pseudo-suave where it's like, I'm going to try to be in suave and try to like have a silver tongue, but really not. It doesn't work out.
And I think, they didn't really play off that all that much. It was just in like the first episode to establish like he thinks he's kind of suave. He's kind of suave, but not really suave.
Yeah, and then like the only other thing I can think of is like he's kind of a universal translator, but he doesn't translate that well.
Which honestly I thought was enjoyable. Like, I loved that.
That was a funny bit, but I just kind of wish that, like he would maybe get something else. I mean, the only other thing was like he can draw real well, which comes out of nowhere, but
But no, I can actually see it.
Yeah,
because if you want to be suave, you got to impress the ladies.
But Panchito clearly is the best character.
Yeah, I think other than Donald, they focused a lot on him.
Yeah, he gets, and especially since like eventually they get little power-ups or whatever, which don't really play that much.
Yeah, tail end they play with it.
But like Panchito gets like, hey, I can lasso even better now. So Aori was like really good at it. Then he's like, oh, I can also luchador really well, and also I have the best lines. Actually,
because like I'd say other than like Donald, he was the only other character that got a dedicated episode to him.
Yeah, which actually I liked that episode a whole lot, mostly because it's Mexico. It's a Mexico episode. But
And there's snakes involved.
Yeah.
and...
Well, it was a good. That was the one thing I actually really liked about Three Cabs is that they would take established kind of like tropey episodes that we've all seen 1,000 times, and you think it's gonna go in their really tropey ways, but they kind of subvert it in very little ways that make it feel a little fresh.
Yeah.
And I like that a whole lot. And since you're getting different environments and different takes on things every episode,
I'd say, it feels almost like a video game. Like each world has their own set of rules to it. And
it's very much a video game. You got to do a different level every time. Something I also did really like about Three Cabs is Zandra, her whole shtick is she's a goddess that's been locked away for like hundreds and hundreds of years.
I'd say at least like 1,000 or so.
Yeah. And so she is getting used to the world around her, and you could usually go with the whole like fish out of water thing, but like, which they do dabble in a little bit, but then
the party episode more specifically.
But they play around with her a lot too, and they have a lot of good moments where she's re-meeting people that she knows of, like, because they're all gods and stuff like that, and she's like the dude who does the River Styx.
Oh yeah.
I forgot that guy's name.
Yeah, Chiron.
Oh yeah. That part literally just had me rolling.
Like they actually really did play off the fish out of water really well, because they didn't do it like, oh, look at how quirky she is. They actually established, showing characters that they moved on or they changed, while she's kind of like, still the same person.
Yeah. Like, we touched on this earlier, but both shows have Zeus in them. DuckTales Zeus is like a lot more arrogant and angry, and
more like the Greek, like Zeus.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Cab's Zeus is more like Hercules Zeus, like from the movie. Like
if
he became like a grandpa.
A retired old like man.
If he becomes like this old man, he's just like, I just want to eat tubers all day. And Zandra's like, but you're gods. We could just do whatever. And he's like, I'm just going to farm.
It was hard work.
War is annoying, killing frost giants. Ugh, who needs that anymore? And, I actually think that that's probably the biggest strength about Cabs is that the show is really funny. I'd actually probably say that it's a lot funnier than the new DuckTales.
Yeah, very much so. I found myself laughing a lot more at Cabs rather than DuckTales. Yeah,
there's like an episode where Donald, where like Daisy, Daisy shows up and she's like, "Yo, are you really changed?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm Donald 2.0." And April, May, and June are like, "Yeah, he's gonna take you to the fanciest restaurant, fancy, most expensive." And it's just like, I'll walk away. Most expensive.
And they did the I forgot it was April, May, and June did the
waiter thing.
Yeah, the waiter thing. The three kids in a trench coat.
Three kids in a trench coat. They're like, oh, if you think you have it bad, the dinner rush just started, so it's real bad for us. There's a lot of little jokes in there, but honestly, like, if we're gonna say the new DuckTales show, it has a lot of good jokes in there too, but mostly I'm just like, when I think of humor, I'm just like, oh god, I love Clown Gold. Except for near the end of the whole Goldie episode, I do think he was getting a little grating, but then after the fight, then he got better.
Yeah.
That was the only thing I was just like, oh no, I just still love this guy. And there's a lot of good things going on too. But alright, so I guess this one will be quick. Which one do you think has a better theme song?
Oh, definitely. Or talking about the original versus new DuckTales, or
no, just new DuckTales versus Cabs.
That's actually a toughie. Like, even though the new theme songs for DuckTales lacks trumpet, which honestly, that's the hypest shit ever.
Yeah.
I enjoy it because of nostalgia and it's a good take on it. And it still has that catchy tune to it because it's DuckTales.
Did you actually know that the DuckTales theme song was actually created by a person who did TV jingles and commercials?
Really?
Yeah, that's why it's so addicting.
Oh, wow.
That, and I watched like a video on it. It was like, yeah, so this is how like it gets into your brain. So like literally, it breaks it down for you. If I was good at this job, I would. If I was good at this whole podcasting, I'd maybe put it in the description. But for me, while you think about that,
it's weird. So like the Cab song, like I catch myself humming to it every so often.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I'd say it's apples and oranges on this one for me, because you got the nostalgia, it's DuckTales, and it's still a good like take on it. But Cabs, it's catchy, you get pumped for like the adventure. It's got trumpet.
But if we were saying old DuckTales, it's obviously...
Oh yeah, it's old DuckTales like all the way.
Because it has that trumpet. It's all the trumpet kids. If you want your theme song to be good, just put a trumpet into it.
All the good theme songs just have trumpet.
The trumpet. I think there was like someone who tried to edit in the trumpet into the new DuckTales theme, and it didn't sound right, mostly because of the sound editing, but you tried, kid. You tried.
Like,
damn it!
He knew where it was at. You need that trumpet.
You need that trumpet.
But yeah, if they had trumpet, like I wouldn't be like, I can't decide, because like trumpet just adds everything to it.
The only thing is, I will say that I'm mostly on the same boat as you. It's just that Three Cabs is a lot shorter of a song. It's a much shorter song, and it's based on, the one from the movie.
Yeah, it gets right to the point.
Yeah, it gets right to the point, and just like crescendos really fast, gets right to the point. You're in the episode. We only got it's only a 30-second opening, and as someone, if you're binge watching it, you don't want to watch that intro too many times. So I would maybe give it a little bit towards Cabs just because of the length of it. But if, I agree with you. If it had that trumpet, maybe DuckTales. But at the same time, I would have to wonder if it's mostly just... the nostalgia talking.
Or the government conspiracy of making it catchy.
All right, Nathan. Last bit. You already know... Okay, so let's say, hypothetically, our beautiful listener is... wanting to watch one of these shows, and they're just like, I want to watch one of these shows and check it out. Which one? I got like a weekend. I could watch both. I could watch one or the other. Which one would you probably recommend?
I'd honestly say DuckTales.
You would say the new DuckTales.
I'd say new DuckTales because
Nathan.
No, I'm not agreeing that it's gonna be Cabs.
Nathan, on our docket, did you not read the docket?
Yeah, I read it and went rogue.
No, Nathan. The docket clearly says right here, Nathan concedes Three Cabs is a better show and friendship wins in the end. Are you trying to ruin the show, man?
I am. I am, you crazy quack!
But here comes Nathan trying to ruin my show.
But honestly, mostly like why I'm going with DuckTales is it basically shows how you do a remake right. It keeps the spirit of the original one. There's some faults to it, but overall, great cast, like pretty decent story, and it shows like, hey, you can actually make a good reboot out of something.
I don't know. I think the main problem with DuckTales for me is that it does the whole like thing where like you have these like big plots that are going over through the entire season, and I feel like they don't touch at them enough, and they feel like they don't touch them at them enough, and it just kind of feels like, at least for the Spear of Selene, it just kind of like, it wraps up just real quick.
Right.
They just have an episode, and they just like, pretty much they just go and say, yo, what is it? And it's just like, okay, here you go. I kind of wish that there was maybe a little bit more pushback. I wish there was like a little bit more mystery on it, and I wish that, like there was a little bit, they cooked it a little bit more.
Yeah, you're hoping that if it kept going, it'd also push back into like season 2 a little bit.
I mean, yeah. I do wish that. I mean, the resolve for it was really good, and I feel like it was handled really well, especially when you're seeing like how this affected Scrooge and like the lengths he took and what happened because of it, and you're just like, oh, okay. But at the same time, part of me I just kind of wish that there was less, I don't want to say filler, because the episodes were good. I had a fun time. I wish that some of the episodes early on were just kind of like mixed in a little bit better.
So possibly more just linking everything together rather than kind of just making it almost standalone episodes here and there.
Yeah. Though like standalone episodes were a lot of fun. The episode that had the gummy bears in it was really good. The Beagle Boy episodes, the party episode was real good. And one thing I actually really do like about the series is Huey, Dewey, and Louie. They have different personalities, and while I do like April, May, and June, over the course of the series, you really get to grow and learn who these characters are and what makes them different. Because there was a point where I was like, what's really the difference between Dewey and Louie? Because I get why he's different. He's a fucking
And
nerd.
yeah, they actually did make a joke on that in DuckTales. It's like, Huey, Dewey, the blue one.
But you like grow and learn who they are, and I think that is kind of an interesting thing, because like my brain like eventually was just like, yeah, that one's that one, and that's his personality. That one's that one.
Because
they
they've very much established on trying to make like everybody distinguishable, like memorable. Like one character isn't too much like another character.
Yeah, but it's just I kind of wish that they just. I wish they had the show is a lot longer, but I feel like. They didn't.
They could have done a lot more because it was longer.
Yeah. Though also, I just want to go and put this out there right now, Nathan, so you get your giggles out of the way. So, so when they introduce Magica's, the girl with the has Magica, and they talk about her pink hair, I was like, what do you mean her hair's pink?
Oh, yeah.
It looks gray. Her hair's like, it has that gray thing going on. Isn't that gray? And then I was just like, oh, it's my color blindness.
Yeah, I didn't want to tell you, but yeah, like within her hair highlights, there's a link to like the season 2 of Three Caballeros.
I'm not gonna explain my color blindness to these folks, but for me, if I had to pick between the two of them, I would easily pick Three Cabs. Mostly because I'm weird like that, and I'm just like I have a weird personal attachment to finding things and digging things up on my own and then watching them on my own time, which, you know, I think there's a personal satisfaction with that. But also I remember the show making me laugh more. I like the cast is a lot smaller, so it's a lot more focused. It's a lot shorter too, so you know, you can just pop that down and watch a few episodes.
And yeah, that's what had it like really going for it. Like it also had that childhood nostalgia to it. There's a couple times where it felt like, you know what? It feels kind of wrong that I don't have a bowl of cereal like right next to me.
Yeah.
And yeah, they very much like did what the old cartoons like felt like. It was an event. You got up on Saturday and you got your cereal. You're in your PJs and you're ignoring your mom saying like, why are you up at like 5:30 in the morning?
Because you gotta find out what Lord Veldrake is doing.
Yeah,
he's up to something, and I do like that. I just love that every episode ties into the next, and it's like a long flowing movie. And whenever it does get on whatever Disney streaming thing, it's gonna be a lot of fun to like watch people binge. And
oh yeah, it's very, very well done with like the binging aspect. Like they did the research on it, on how to make it like feel great, how to make it so you want to watch the next episode, and so on and so forth.
So that's why I kind of want to give it the edge, because I feel like the pacing on it's a little bit better, and I just generally enjoy the characters more. Sure, I don't like the pair that much, I don't like Ari too much, but Leopold's great, Veldrake is great, he's a great villain, he's a lot of fun to watch and listen to, because it's like Shell Goose will be like, well, I thought my rhythm was good, and then he just like, well, I can keep a beat too, and just starts beating them up, and it's great. It's dumb. There's a lot of good jokes in there, and the only other thing is, I just feel like while the characters aren't as fully developed as I would like them to be, I do enjoy them enough, and I love the characters enough to go and probably recommend it over DuckTales. Plus, like, Grey Delise is in it.
Yeah, just you wait, man. Season 2, they're just gonna have like Grey Delise. They already got Tara Strong in it, so all the signs are pointing. They're gonna continue the Grey Delise and Tara Strong are fighting for all eternity. I
mean, Tara Strong voiced Ari in Three Cabs. Didn't you know that?
Actually, no, man.
Like, I'm joking.
I was gonna say, man, yeah, like. Man, just that vocal range.
No, I don't think Tara Strong has that vocal range to be Ari. Though I'm like curious whether Ari was actually voice acted or if like they
Or
just...
yeah, stock footage, because listening, like going back to that Donald short, yeah, it felt like they directly ripped a lot of Ari's like jabbering into Cabs.
Yeah. But either way, both shows are a lot of fun to watch. If like we have our, I guess we'll just end it like that. We won't have the power. Well, at the end of the day, we both like both shows.
Yeah,
and they both have their merits.
Yeah, Donald's amazing.
Donald's great in both. The only thing is, I'm not gonna lie, we only have a little bit of time left. Three Cabs had something in it that I thought you would be totally down for, and you were just like, eh.
Yeah, I'm not that much of a weeb, man.
Nathan's always like, oh, I really like Tengus. Tengus are the coolest thing. This Tengu comes up and he's like the cool. They like hype him up and they like he gets like just all this like smoke and like shit around him and he looks all tight as hell. And Nathan's just like, I don't really care.
It's cool.
It's cool, I guess.
It's not Glom Gold.
Not
If it started talking like Glom Gold, I'd be all like, oh shit.
Curse you, Nathan, and your addiction to Glom Gold. All right. Thank you so much for listening, guys. This has been the Creepo Depot. Nathan, give us, you have anything else to say?
Nah, yeah, just stay tuned for the next episode.
Yeah. Nathan, are you just trying to secretly become like my co-host or something?
Dude, yeah, I just want to set up a...
Typical Nathan! Trying to go and worm his way onto every show, so I have to go and have only him and guest he likes on it.
No, I thought you got the message when I set up that black couch right there, like in the corner of the recording booth.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that's what that's for.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Can't be a co-host without a black leather couch.
All right. We'll see you guys later. Thanks again for listening. Kill it, Renee.